So I am speaking to you from the top of Bearwallow Mountain. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the view from here, uh, uh, according to me. And I am a person who experiences the world through the lens of disability. And for me, that view is very beautiful and very open and has in the past been somewhat limited. And we're hopeful that that is changing as time changes, because the view from here is very expansive. And so I want to tell you a little bit of how and why I know that, a little bit about my life. I was born in the 50s. I have spina bifida. And so I was born with a disability at a time where disability was not embraced as as something that you could live a full and open life with. However, I have said this so many times, I grew up in a family who fell in love with my body before I even knew I had one. And as a result of that, most of my life was really about finding possibilities in ways that you might not think of. And one of my earliest, there are very many early memories, but one of my earliest memories of how I knew something about myself that was both about how I saw the world, my view from here, and how I needed to redesign other people's understandings of the view from here was when I was a child. If anybody who grew up in the 50s in the South may remember, there was a kind of bread that we ate. It was called sunbeam bread. It was sliced. It was really tasteless. And it came in a bag with a little girl on the cover who had braids. She was very beautiful. She always wore a pinafore. She had very strong legs. And the reason I know she had very strong legs is she also was on a billboard right outside of our town in Kentucky. And she was pumping a swing back and forth and back and forth. And the braids were actual, some kind of real fabric, because they moved in the wind, which everyone thought was the most beautiful thing ever in the world, the Sunbeam Girl. And I kind of always thought, if I had legs like that Sunbeam Girl, I'd be swinging that swing, and my hair would probably be blonde, and I would have braids and all of that. Well, I didn't have braids. My legs weren't strong. And no matter who told me how beautiful I was, that would be my mother, that Sunbeam Girl was quite different than me. But when I would come back from the hospital in the summers, having had surgery, I would have casts on my legs. And I loved to be outside. There were many lakes near where we lived, land between the lakes and the trailways lakes, and I loved to swim. So my mother would take the bags from the Sunbeam bread, and she would put them on my casts and tape them with duct tape. Duct tape was a big part of my life. I'm not sure they called it duct tape at that time, but she would duct tape the top so the water couldn't get in to ruin my casts. And the Sunbeam Girl and I would crawl out to the water as far as we could get. And at some point, as we crawled out there, the water would lift us, me and my casts, and I would swim. And even when I looked down into the muddy water of the lake and saw the Sunbeam Girl down there, I recognized that she and I were not the same kind of beautiful, but that water lifted both of us, because water is about buoyancy, and buoyancy is about what you are as a human body. And I think from that point on, I never questioned whether she was more beautiful than I was. She could pump a swing like nobody else, but I also was part of that kind of sense of beauty. And that, to me, understanding why that lens that you have comes from who you are. It's informed by what you experience. It's informed by that you know that water lifts all human beings rather than just the ones who have braids and wear pinafores. It was really, really important for me. It informed everything that I do. It informs how I think of my life, but also how I think about disability. And I'll tell you another kind of, just to flesh out growing up with a disability in those times. I name this all the time, but I grew up before the 94-142, which is the act that said all children with disabilities have to be educated. So I was before that. Although my mother, when they told us that I would go to the spastics home for school, my mother said no, she will go to public school. So I did. I was born before the 504, which is the law that says that if a building gets federal funding, it has to be made accessible. And I was born way before the ADA, which now says that we're all in this together and accessibility is part of life. Although we've got a little lag till we really get there. But another really pivotal moment in my life as a person with a disability, developing my sense of how we got here, was when I was teaching college. And I was teaching at Kenyon College in Ohio. My office was in the basement, and I taught on all 4 floors of a 4-story building. The bathroom was on the 2nd floor. My drawing classes were on the 3rd floor. The print shop was in the basement. And we kept trying to get someone to make the building accessible, but we got no federal funds, so there wasn't any real reason to do it. And it wasn't working. We weren't breaking through any barriers. We weren't helping people understand why disability mattered to all of us, not just to me, the one person who had the disability. And there wasn't anybody else there that did. And I crawled up the stairs from my office to the 1st floor to get my mail one day, and there was a note in my mailbox, and it was about an artist who had a disability, and written across the top of it, it was from my department chair, and he said, not that you have a disability, not that you're disabled, but I thought you might enjoy this article. And at that moment, I thought, the crux of the problem here is not the law. It's not what people think of me. It's the fact that you think it's a compliment to tell me that I'm not who I am. Because the view from my Sunbeam Bag Girl days is that I am who I am, and that is what my vision is about. And so the view from here is we should all be able to embrace this. We should all be able to enjoy it. We should all be able to roll up and down a path. And if you are lucky enough to join me on wheels someday when you're old enough, I will take you hiking. And that's the view from here.